Very welcome, everybody, to the Connected Citizen webinar series. This is the first webinar entitled The Council of the Future. Delighted to be here. Just before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land, the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. Fergal Coleman is my name. I'm a director and co-founder of Symphony3, and I'm going to be joined today and over the next 6 months by John Nevins, who's a strategic advisor to our business and former CEO of the City of Kingston. John, looking forward to the next 6 months.
Morning, everyone.
And having you on board.
This is an exciting technology with enormous potential, Fergal. Really pleased to be part of it.
Great. We'll also have some cameo appearances by my fellow director and IT guru, Phil Dooley, and we've got Colin Fairweather, who'll join us as well for a short cameo. Colin's the ex-CIO at the City of Melbourne. And I've also got Eamon Dooley helping me field questions as we go. So how are you, Eamon?
Good, thanks, Fergal. How are you?
Great. So very quickly, who are Symphony3? Look, Symphony3 was established in 2011. We've worked with over 70 local governments, Phil and I reckon. 30 of our clients are currently using our technology platform to enable their digital transformation. So based on our depth and variety of experience, we define ourselves as technology experts with a deep understanding of local government. And really, that leads into this series that we're running, which is we really want to elevate the digital transformation conversation in local government and have a thought-provoking series for everybody to immerse themselves in. Bit of housekeeping. Webinar the format will be, we'll mix it up over the 7 sessions, but we'll try and keep it to 45 minute conversation. We'll have guest panelists and cameos from industry leaders in each of the sessions. We want you to ask questions any questions you have. No questions a silly question. We want your comments. This is all about a conversation. You can pop your questions into the Q&A or the chat box. Eamon's going to help me pick them up as we go. So you can wait till the end, but I'd encourage you to throw them in as they come to you throughout the session. We will have a bit of interactivity in terms of polls and things like that and breakout sessions, albeit not today. And important to say that these sessions will be recorded. So if you have any issues with that, please let us know. What we want you to learn, and this is specifically today, we'll introduce you to the series and why we think it is important. We want you to gain an understanding of where your organization is at on its digital journey. And we want you to discuss and think together about where that journey needs to go, both as an industry sector and your council individually. You'll learn about and discuss how technology can advance your citizen-centric strategies, and we'll discuss that citizen centricity a little bit today. And really, we want you to share your thoughts and ideas on the challenges and opportunities, and particularly today. So no comment is a bad comment. This will help us formulate the next 6 sessions that we'll run after today. In terms of the schedule, today we're talking about the Council of the Future. And then we'll have 6 more sessions. The first will be based on strategy. We'll go into customer service, internal stakeholders, technology, processes, and metrics. Each will have its own distinct session. Importantly, we haven't put these together willy-nilly. So we've developed a digital maturity model based on the 6 streams that we'll have a webinar in. So we intend to get into each of these in depth over the next 6 months. And I guess the idea is that this is the digital transformation is a jigsaw puzzle that we're all trying to put together. We'll discuss each piece of the puzzle every month, and hopefully we'll fit them together. So at the end of the 6 months, as a collective, we'll be enlightened, and we'll have more information than we started out with. So pretty excited to get started. John, any comments on that? I'm hoping you're as excited as me.
I am Fergal, but I think it's important to point out that digitisation is not a strategy in itself. It's a means to an end, and hence this jigsaw puzzle. It's where the technology fits in. It's a multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder process.
And I think, I think that's a little bit about what we'll discuss today. We've got, I should say, we've got about 35 councils, predominantly from Victoria, but we do have representation from Western Australia, New South Wales as well. We've got everything. We've got CEOs, IT managers, customer service people, digital people. This is a holistic. We're looking for leaders throughout the organisation to drive digital transformation. And I guess that's where we're starting from. The first session is actually on strategy and leadership. And I wanted to put this out today because we've already acquired and I had Professor Mark Thompson, who's agreed to be a guest panelist for us. Now, Mark is one of the authors of the book that you'll see there, Digitising Government, which informed the UK policies for many years and still is. The Gov UK movement, which of course is taken to Australia, has been used overseas. Of the three authors, Mark is the local government guru. So we think this is going to be a big draw card. If you're interested, and if you're interested in getting some of your colleagues along, please let me know, because we think places will be at a premium for this one. Flick me an email and I'll make sure we get you all penciled in. So that will be on the 14th of October. Just trying to finalize a time with Mark that means he doesn't have to get out of bed at 4 a.m. John, you flicked me this slide of this information the other day, and I guess this is the starting point for the conversation. It was out of the Australian, the AICD Company Directors September book, based on an Accenture Digital Performance Index, which ranked Australia second last out of 37 OECD countries for investment in digital technologies. Now, what was interesting about this, John, is that you didn't send it to me kind of in despair. You send it to me in optimism. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, sure. Whilst we're ranked 32nd last out of 37 in Australia, I think the upside of this is the enormous potential that exists in Australia for digitisation. The initial challenge is to create an awareness and understanding of it is very feasible, and as you'll explain shortly in the upcoming slides, Fergal, this technology is proven, it's workable, it's already operational in a number of Victorian councils, but the upside is enormous potential for Australia, but given the focus of today's presentation, for local government itself.
That's right. Interestingly enough, it tallies in, I suppose, the importance of this conversation and why we're having it. We put out a survey to our attendees, and one of the questions was relative to other sectors, how we thought that in local government was doing in terms of digital transformation. 75% thought they were less mature. So if we're second last in the world and we're behind others, there's great opportunity, that's for sure, and that's what we're going to explore over the next 6 months. Talked about leaders in the organization, John, and this, I've talked earlier just about it being this is not about IT people, these sessions. Where do leaders in the organization and CEOs, you've been a CEO in particular, fit into the digital transformation conversation?
Digital transformation is about change. Change involves people taking some risks. Every council will have people in there who are very motivated and able to innovate if they feel that that's a safe and secure environment in which to do it. They will be prepared to take chances. But the culture of the organisation has to be such that it is a supportive culture where people are empowered and supported, and that starts with the CEO and the senior executives. They have to be, put the message out. It is safe. This is the strategic direction we're going in. This is our focus. This is what we want to be achieving, and you have my support as your CEO.
Great, and it filters down to the levels. And I suppose the next session, I wanted to put this in here. It's about leaders across the organisation and leaders making sure that we have the right kind of leaders. So one of the things we'll put out before the next session is a bit of a survey to start discussing what mindsets leaders need to drive digital transformation. Here you can see from MIT, we've got producers, investors, connectors, and explorers, and getting that mix right in an organization is really important. So these are the kind of topics that we want to discuss over the course of the next few months, but particularly in the next session. So expect some correspondence on this before the 14th of October session. On to today and the Council of the Future. John, we've discussed this at length as we were preparing for this session, and we were thinking who can see the future. Nobody can really see the future, but some people do it better than others. And I thought we'd present the group today with Jeff Bezos, Amazon's founder, on the future and looking to the future. So bear with me very quickly. Hopefully you can hear this okay. Please let me know if you can't, and I will rejig my computer. Here we go.
I very frequently get the question, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that is an interesting question. It's a very common one. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And I submit to you that that second question is actually the more important of the two, because you can build a business strategy around the things that are stable in time. And so, as you pointed out, in our retail business, we know that customers want low prices. And I know that's going to be true 10 years from now. They want fast delivery. They want vast selection. It's impossible to imagine a future 10 years from now where a customer comes up to me and says, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish the prices were a little higher. You know how I love Amazon, I just wish you delivered a little more slowly. Impossible. And so the effort that we put into those things, spinning those things up, we know the energy we put into it today will still be paying dividends for our customers 10 years from now. And so those, when you have something that you know is true, even over the long term, you can afford to put a lot of energy into it. On AWS, the big ideas are also pretty straightforward. It's impossible for me to imagine that 10 years from now, somebody is going to say, I love AWS, I just wish it were a little less reliable. Or I love AWS, I just wish you would raise prices. It should be a little more expensive. Or I love AWS, and I wish you would innovate and improve the APIs at a slightly slower rate. None of those things you can imagine. And so the big ideas in business are often very obvious, but it's very hard to maintain a firm grasp of the obvious at all times. But if you can do that and continue to spin up those flywheels and put energy into those things, as we're doing with AWS, over time, you build a better and better service for your customers on the things that genuinely matter to them.
John, thought-provoking for sure. We were thinking about what was going to change. I'm going to put it to you because we're going to put this out to a question to people to put into the chat box. You've had 25 years as a CEO, I think.
In local government, as a CEO.
Okay.
It gives a very different perspective on thinking about the future. And, paraphrasing Jeff Bezos, it's impossible to imagine a future in local government where the community and your elected councillors are saying, I want you to be more difficult to engage with. I want you to be less responsive to the community. I want you to slow down your delivery of your capital works program. I want you to be slower in responding to works requests. I want you to do less engagement with your community. It's the how we do those things, because they will be constants in our future. And taking a retrospective view, they've been a constant in our past.
Yep.
It's how we do it that changes.
That's right. So I'll put it out to the question out to the group. I'd like if everybody could throw in a comment. If you disagree that we shouldn't be looking at what isn't going to change, let's hear it. Let's put it out for discussion. So I'll have.
And I just add to that while people are making their comments, Fergal. It's not just the communities that different local governments serve and exist to serve. It's your employees as well. What won't change about your employees? Your employees will still want to be part of a high-performing organisation. They will want to be part of an organisation that invests in their skills and their training and their development and keeps them relevant in the workforce. That will be that won't change either.
Yeah. Got a comment in here about being more bureaucratic. I think that was taken with a we'll take that one with a pinch of salt.
Well, if you look at that, the amount of regulation that local government deals with and the reporting obligation, the consequences of that regulation, I don't see that changing either. The local government is probably the most accountable level of government in Australia.
Yeah,
and it's very transparent as well. And
and I think that I think what Jeff is getting at, you spin these things up, and if you get them right, they start going faster and faster. And we look at the need for digital solutions is a comment in there. It's just increasing. So what's not going to change are those expectations of the community. They expect more and more and more. How those tools, how we enable that is really what's going to change, I guess.
Okay.
Here's an interesting one from Chris. Continued cost shifting from federal and state levels. I don't know if you've got an opinion on that, John.
It's government grants are given. They start out funding a certain percentage and the percentage reduces over time, or they're indexed to CPI, and local government's cost index is greater than CPI. There's always financial pressure on local government. Local government provides most of its services for free or a nominal charge.
Yep.
And the local government services add enormous value to communities. Demand will always be greater than local government's capacity to supply. So there will be constant pressure on local government to be cost efficient and provide value for money services.
Yeah. Couple of themes coming through. Accountability and transparency are two words that have popped up. Certainly we discussed that a lot ourselves. The community are demanding more and more accountability and transparency. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep going along, but this is really a foundation for how we can plan forward with these key themes, and of course we'll be looking at those as we go. What is going to change, of course, is the technology. I think the technology is just going to continue to evolve and change, and that's what we want to talk a little bit about now, John. I'm going to jump in and try and, all of us in our daily lives are using tools like Uber, we're using Airbnb, we're using Google, but there's a disconnect. We think these tools are out in the ether, belonging to the big monoliths, but really that's the kind of technology that we should be using ourselves in our own organizations and in local government. So what I want to do is pick a sector. I'm going to pick the travel sector and talk about how technology has evolved in the technologies in the tech travel sector, and then bring that comparison into local government. So if we start over on the left-hand side here, we've got your year 2000 kind of client server, early internet, typical travel agent. We've got a customer up the top. They're able to go into a website, but generally it was an information, a brochure website, what we would call a kind of a dumb website. Largely, they were still either getting on the phone or going to the front counter, where there was a whole load of people typing things behind desks. They were getting on the phone to the various companies, the car companies, the airlines, the tour operators, etc., who were typing into their own systems and coming back with an itinerary eventually to the customer. Pretty familiar to all of us who've been around, apart from maybe the millennials on this call. If we fast forward to what we call internet-enabled businesses, and based on the Accenture report, this is where most people are probably operating and businesses are operating today. We've still got our customer up the top. There's still, this example in the travel sector could be the likes of a flight center, for example. They'll have a website. and they might have what we call some integration. So we call integration glue. So they might have some glue to one or two systems. In this case, the car companies and the airlines. But there'll be a lot of inquiries that come through the website that will go through manually as emails to someone who has to type them into a system. We've still got the operators behind the scenes who are having to get on the phone and contact people in other organizations who are having to type in information to come back with the itinerary for the customer up the top here. Importantly, we've got our management over here in black who are wandering around with not really any real-time information at their fingertips. Go to the final section over on the right-hand side here. We have internet by default. And the example we use is Webjet. So Webjet have a portal, a website, which is a single access point to the services they deliver. Underneath their portal, they have what we call glue. So APIs, integration technologies. And they can connect into dozens, tens, hundreds, or even thousands of systems in real time. So the customer can get online 24/7, put in a search for what they're looking for in terms of a holiday. The glue has the wisdom to go away to whatever system, identify the systems it needs to go to, and come back within seconds with an itinerary for the customer.
Fergal, this is a good example of something that it's existing in existence today. And local government is a very complex entity, but we can't underestimate the complexity of the travel sector, because this, the Webjet example, the customer going in through their portal and using the APIs and what we badged the glue, those inquiries are going, apart from different time zones, they're taking payments, they're doing currency conversions, they're dealing with thousands of tour operators, airlines, different hotels. We go into hotels, then we look at the options within the hotels in terms of the room that we want. We look at tours, we coordinate the times, we make our booking, we organise transfers. And those systems that we interact with, they're on different platforms, different operating systems, and the hotels, the car hire companies, the airlines, they're chopping and changing their applications as well. So they take out, use local government example, they take out Tech One and they put in another finance system. They use multiple applications, platform security arrangements, languages, currency conversions, etc. And the customer doesn't need to know any of that, doesn't understand how that works, because they're just going through the dashboard. So this is a very, very complex example that has a seamless operation.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the architecture is, I'm obviously kind of showing a simplified version of the architecture here for all of us who are non-techies, but we'll talk about it shortly. But this architecture, we've built it into a local government context. We've put it into other sectors. It works. It's the future. We need to. It's a mindset shift that we need to engender in local government around putting the customer first. Systems aren't going to go away, and we'll talk about this shortly when I get to the next system. ERPs are going to always be needed.
Let's go to the next ones, Fergal.
No problem. Let me just finish the final point I've got here with the glue, John. You've got, because we've connected up all our systems, obviously we can connect our customers, but also we can pull information out of here, not just for our customers, but for our managers. So we can present data live in real time to management on dashboards so that they can make better decisions when they need to at any time of the day. Hugely important. This is, being in this internet by default business doesn't mean you're the best, but it means you can, you're likely to be high performing.
Okay.
So let's go to the council example. John, what does this look like for a council? We'll start again over on the left-hand side. We've broken down, customer request, service delivery, document management, etc. Here you'll see down the bottom. There are other systems, obviously, but we'll start up here with the customer. Back 20 years ago, most councils would have had a basic website, brochure website. or they could get information, but largely still getting on the telephone, going to the call center, or going to the front desk, and there'd be an array of people behind the counter typing things into systems, then having to send information off to the various departments who'd have to type things into their own systems. So depending on the request, information was having to go into 2 or 3 different systems by 3 different people. And eventually the information will come back to the customer. Fast forward to where most councils are operating today, where we've got, we've digitized, or transitioning to digital is what we've called it. Arguably, we have actually made things more complex for the customer. So we've got our customer up here. They can still go to a website, and we might have some integration glue to the website, maybe sending something to a customer request system. But we've also got all these other digital services. So in some councils we've counted up to 8 logins for a customer to get in to get a service. Pretty complex. They will have some glue down here where they might be integrating, parts of their finance and rate systems, for example, or into their document management system. But you're also likely to see this point-to-point integration. And we've kind of shown this with the blue arrows down here. Now, this gets really messy when you start talking about 40 systems. And the other thing you'll observe here is that we've still got plenty of people behind desks. And we've got management over here not really having their finger on the pulse because they can't get the data they need when they need it. Fast forward to where we need to go to. And, we call it the Webjet of local government example, John. Internet by default. You've got the customer here, but let's start with the glue. So we call it smart glue, which is the technology and the patterns and the understanding to connect up all your systems. So the first thing you've got to do is try and connect up all your systems using APIs. Once you've done that, you can enable the customer to come into a single portal, a single access point for all their services, which allows them to access any service that is delivered from these systems. And, to your ERP point, you'll still have ERPs in here, Dan, probably in here in finance will be some of them. They can be plugged in and plugged out.
What's an ERP, Fergal?
Enterprise Resource Planning System, John, I think, from memory. Your typical Tech One, Civica, Infor would be the 3 big ones. We probably all know that. They're not going to go away, but we build around them, and we don't necessarily need to replace them. Over time, you might. We'll talk about that in a second, and I know we've got Colin Fairweather who's going to join us in a second, who has an opinion about it. But it's just another system. It drives a particular service that council delivers. And it can be plugged in and it can be plugged out. And some of the rural councils are doing this, they're plugging out old finance systems and plugging in things like Xero, for example.
Just on some of Symphony3's customers, Fergal, with that portal, that has forms in it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking here of the Mansfield experience and what they've been able to do.
Yeah.
At themselves after signing up.
Yeah. So Mansfield, very small, agile council. I think we've got Mandy and Robbie on the call. So Robbie's the IT manager up there. Robbie has been trained to make his own forms, and the forms are built in such a way that he can tell the form to send an attachment into the document management system or to send a request into the CRM system. So once he has the technology in place, and this becomes important because it's reusable technology. We're talking about open source, shareable, open standards, which means that smaller councils can share. They can share information, they can share knowledge, but they can also share code. So Robbie can go away. I think he's built up to 50 forms himself. Now I know that there's other councils where they've been charged up to 9 grand, 10 grand per form to build. So this is important, John. This is about enabling councils to drive digitization themselves.
So did Symphony3 charge Mansfield for those 50 forms?
Not to build it. They pay us to make sure the glue works, John, and nothing's obviously we have to support them, but no, that they're empowered to do it themselves and build it themselves, which is really important.
Just to drive the point home,
Yeah.
Ravi at Mansfield created 50 forms at no additional cost to the Shire of Mansfield.
Essentially, yeah, essentially. So pretty powerful when you get it right. Second point here, and another important point here, is once we've connected up these systems, you can make the data and access to the systems available to your customers, but you can also make the data available to your management. So via dashboards, they can have real-time information at their fingertips, which is really important.
Fergal, we just got a question. How long does it take to create a form?
Well, obviously it depends on the form. The technology is not the challenge. Is understanding your processes and refining your processes is what needs to be worked through, because creating a new form gives you the opportunity to streamline the service, actually. But some forms, Robbie, I think, I don't know if he's on the call, he'd probably tell you, he can probably do it in a couple of hours at this stage. So it doesn't take a long time. Yeah. The important thing is, John, is if it's already created. So Robbie has a form that we created with the guys at Golden Plains. That's clonable. He can just take that and restyle it with his own look and feel. So forms libraries, sharing of libraries and sharing of connectors of APIs is really important in this new economy, this new API economy. So collaboration, that's philosophically how we work, John. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We should keep moving, Fergal.
Yes,
the clock's against us.
No problem. We're on 103. We've about 10 minutes left, I think, and then we'll open it up for questions. So the dashboard becomes important. Alpine Shire and the guys at Pyrenees, I think we've got Jim on the line today. They're pulling out capital works information into a dashboard just to give visibility to their management, but also to their community and to their councillors. And that's a starting point for making information and data available.
So Fergal, at Pyrenees, do they have the same dashboard for the councillors and the community and the officers, or do they have different versions of it?
Different views of it and different lenses. So we call it the smart lens dashboard. The community, you can show the community one level of data, you can show your councillors one level of data, and management and project managers can have a whole have as much information, I suppose, as they want available to them. Final is, we don't have any people behind desks here. Okay, so once we connect up these systems, we've got automation happening. Can people hear me? Can you hear me okay, John? Yeah.
Yes.
That frees people up here, which you'll see up the top, to go out into the field. They're closer to the customer. They're on mobile devices. They're delivering value-added services. Hugely important. Now, it's maybe not as simple as I've made out, but it is doable, very doable. As I said, there's smaller councils doing it, and the benefits of this, adopting this, are enormous. And one comment come through, and I might open this up to, before we talk about these three benefits, to my colleague Philip Dooley. With one comment come through about this sounds too good to be true, I think a few months ago, but this has been done. We've done this in the corporate sector. We've done it in the water utilities sector. We're doing it in local government now. This is possible, and this is the way forward. So, Phil, I don't know if you want to jump on very quickly and talk a little bit about how councils can kind of deliver resident-centric outcomes. And I think important, without having to replace their existing systems. Have we got you online?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Oh, yeah. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Look, I think it's important. We're watching councils go out to tender for new systems, new main systems, rating systems, because I think that's an integral part of this. Our experience is as it's not. I was technical lead for Toyota's single customer view, 200 dealers, 15 systems, names everywhere. You cannot replace those systems. They're not even allowed to touch them. And our experience is that we can get in and out of pretty well all of the existing local government systems, and that's not a limitation to this. But the endpoints to systems we're able to copy or move between buildings. I think the second point I'd actually like to make is we do a lot of work in small corporates. They're smaller than local governments in a lot of cases. I've spent the last week interviewing MyOb, Xero, those sorts of guys on behalf of one of our clients. They're assuming that those small corporates are running integration or Smart Glue. They're assuming they'll have a customer dashboard that they don't provide. They're assuming they'll have a staff portal that they don't provide. But they're providing extremely slick APIs to their entire system. And they're assuming that their product lives in an API-centric world. In other words, it's this diagram here. While I'm on to answer the question about how long it takes Ravi, there's 4 hidden fields on his forms, and he types into them which systems the data needs to go to, what the naming format is, and a couple of other things. And essentially, whatever the public type never has to be retyped in the building on those forms. That's the outcome. That's wonderful. Enough for today.
Thank you, Phil. I'll keep moving along then. So look, the benefits, I suppose, down the bottom, you've got your glue, the integration and automation by default, just massive internal efficiencies and cost savings there. If we have a single access point, that is the starting point to enable us to deliver exceptional customer experiences across all services. So not just out of services that are delivered by your ERP or one distinct system. And then finally, we've talked about better decision making. So, management being able to see what's happening in real time and making sure that they're focusing on things that really benefit the bottom line. There are complexities, of course, and you can see them there. I'm going to dive in on one of them, which is, the traditional councils reliant on dominant ERP vendors. Colin, I don't know if you're with us, but do you want to give us your view on property-centric versus customer-centric and some of the challenges around that in about 30 seconds, if you don't mind? Are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, you're very welcome, and thanks very much for joining us.
That's been a great session. I like your comments on the multi-channel strategy too, but that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, I think it's a bit of generalization, but 150 years of councils, they've been built around property centricity. So we see everything through the eyes of property. It's all connected to property, but it's deeply embedded in how councils work. But now we're moving towards more through a lens of customer. And, customer is no longer just simply an attribute of a property. And I think that's presents a pretty much some gnarly challenges in how you address some of this stuff. And I think you've given us some of the answers, which is great, because, property centricity is embedded in the way we work in councils, the way the systems are built, and it inherited some of that, and the way the data is structured. And, it's great to see you've got a way forward, because it's hard to get around the fact that the property is still critical because that's where the rates are, but equally so is customer. And we've just got to get the mindset right. Is it enough?
That's great. That's wonderful. Look, I think you're absolutely right. We have our view of the world and we're doing this, but this is about the sector as one starting to think about this and starting to make that shift from customer centric to property centric. And great. To customer centric, excuse me. So great to have your support on this, and look forward to delving down into a bit more of the detail over the coming sessions.
So, Fergal, would it be fair comment then it is APIs essentially that drive digitisation, not the ERP, and it doesn't matter what ERP a council has or changes to when it comes to digitisation?
Yeah, in simple terms, yes. I mean, someone said to me the other day, I think I asked you the question, John, what version of Google are you running?
No idea. Yeah,
apps, your average app that you download actually uses 17 other services. So it's got the smallest apps have 17 APIs. They're just connecting into other services. So the world is getting knitted together with small systems. That's where they're. Yeah.
Can I still comment?
You can.
I think the future is not ERP, and ERP, in my view, is the dinosaur, but you're just going to build around the graveyard, I reckon. I think ERPs take too long to implement, too long to change, too long for the business to change, and it's about lock-in. I think we need quick solutions for our customers and be much more adaptable. And if you can build around that, that's fine. But eventually they'll wither on the vine, I think, and unless they get modern.
In simple terms, and look, our philosophy is certainly build around them. If you want to replace them, that's fine. That's not the business we're in. You know, you can swap out Tech One for Authority if you want, or vice versa, or Oracle for SAP. That doesn't necessarily drive, and it doesn't drive digital transformation. So we'll get into that discussion. I suppose we're putting it out there because we want to have this discussion, Colin. We think the sector needs to start thinking like this, and we need to have these deep discussions and constructive arguments.
I agree.
Yeah, good. And today we've done it as a webinar, I should say, to people. In the future, we'll make these meetings as well, so that we can have a lot more input from people who are on the call, who have opinions. So I guess this, you know, we've gone through it. We spent 50 minutes, or a little bit over time, John, but I'm going to put the final question out to the group. Are you on the right path? So, yeah. Do you have a digitization strategy based on what we've discussed today that supports your performance and service delivery objectives? So I'm looking for your comments in the screen. John, while we're doing that, I'm going to put it to you. If you were back in your previous roles and I asked you this question, what would your answer be? I don't know if you can answer that for us honestly, but have a crack at it.
Fergal, I think I'd be quite reflective of one of the earlier slides you had up on the Accenture ranking of Australia as second last of the 37 OECD countries.
Yeah,
didn't have a digital strategy, wasn't aware of it, didn't understand its potential. So no, whilst we got into the space and we all embrace social media, and many councils now, and I had experience of embracing AI and seeing that being successfully rolled out on the Kingston Council webpage chatbot, but no understanding or awareness of what you've presented on today.
Yeah. I've got a question in here, but how would we know if we had a perfect strategy? So let me put that one to you as well. You're the CEO. How would you know if you had a perfect digital strategy? That's from Trevor. I think Trevor's throwing in a few curveballs to keep us moving, but that's all good.
If I was fortunate enough to have a perfect digital strategy, I know it would only be temporary because the technology keeps evolving, Fergal.
Yeah, and look, I guess to answer it in a less facetious way, we with our clients, we work on a digital assessment model. We've got a maturity model. Out of that comes a roadmap. Out of that comes a way forward that addresses technology, addresses internal stakeholders, addresses customer, and you put, depending on where the organization is at, you know, that dictates where the milestones are, I suppose, as much as anything else.
Well, I think we need to be careful of pursuing perfection, because the pursuit of perfection can become an excuse not to do anything. It's the iterative, evolving, continuous improvement that I think that's where the real benefit lies.
Yeah.
A lot of what's been canvassed today, it's the 80-20 rule, Fergal. You can get 80% of the benefit with 20% of the effort, which is what local government clients of Symphony3 are getting now. They've got forms, they've got the dashboard, they've got integration, single point of data entry. They've got an omni-channel presence that provides 24/7 self-service. That is quite doable. The pursuit of perfection, it won't be achieved.
Yeah. A great point here from Steph. I like to think that we're moving from a quick get everything digitized to a strategic plan that looks at our service at the point of customer. I've lost that. Let me just read it out for people. At the point of customer access, right back through the back of house. So end to end is really important. You know, I think there's plenty of people who it's like the duck on the water. Everything looks calm when they put a format up, but you know, underneath the covers, people are paddling away like crazy. We have to make this end to end, and that's where the smart glue comes in, obviously. A comment again from Colin. Interesting to know how many councils know how many customer channels exist. Multiple phone numbers, email addresses on the website, front desks, telephone, call centers, etc. Need to move to a single channel strategy. And I know that's one of your bugbears as well, John. We'll address that, I guess, at a later stage. Robin, councils have a lot of master plans. Perhaps it's time for an organisation digital master plan. If you look at other sectors, digital you don't have digital strategies anymore. Digital is just part of how things are done. And really our digital should be embedded into everything we do. Would that be a fair comment, do you think, John?
Absolutely, because digitisation is not an end in itself. It's a means to other ends. And local governments these days have really strong focuses on being customer-centric, community-focused. That's the driver. That's the strategic objective. But also investing in and supporting your employees to make the employee experience something to be that continues to improve as well. So
yeah. The other thing we need to build, John. Yeah, well, we're nearly done actually. We've got so I'm going to put it out to people just to give us their feedback on this session and what they would like to see in future sessions. Any questions they might have as we're going through this. So the question in here, what would I consider to get to my 20% of key things to digitize? I'll put that question to, we've discussed this question as well, John, and maybe that's one to finish on. What if you had to digitize 4 or 5 things in Kingston back in the day, or even when you were acting at Macedon, what would they be?
My experience at Kingston and Macedon, and I suspect it'll be the same for most councils, is that 80% of your service requests or complaints will be in particular areas. In a metro council, it was waste bins, local laws issues. They dominated outside planning. In rural, in my time at Macedon, waste recycling inquiries, local law amenity issues. So when you go through and you look at, and it'll vary for councils across Australia, but you'll be able to identify where most of your customer complaints or service requests are coming from. They're the ones to digitise straight away. So you provide the forms, it becomes a self-service option 24/7.
Yeah.
Fully integrated into all the systems that you have inside your council, your pay, your asset management system, your CRM, your EDMS, your finance system, etc. But you just have a look at where your customer requests or complaints are coming from, and you focus on those. That's the 80-20 rule.
The final question I will move on then, John. I just get too excited, I think. But Fiona had a question, big question being overlooked. Why do we each run the same systems individually? Imagine the savings with a shared services model across council. We'll tackle that next month, certainly with Mark when he comes on from the UK, because there are certain services definitely that can be shared. And I think this API model actually means that it shouldn't matter what people are using. Of course, we can share services. We haven't talked today about actually accessing third-party services, where we just send information directly to our service providers.
Yeah. Well, but that concept about sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, that's exactly what's happening right now with the dashboard and the forms. That's exactly right. That makes it a win-win for everybody. So one council, one Pyrenees, what they did with the dashboard is now going to be
it's about sharing
benefit to everyone else using the dashboard as well. That's
right. Sharing technology. Okay, I'm going to keep moving along. We're nearly done. Just in terms of conclusions, I suppose, of what we've talked about. And I think really what we want are these challenging conversations. We've thrown out quite a few big statements today, John. So I certainly want to hear from people and let us know what they think and if they agree or disagree. Jeff Bezos, we can plan around what is not going to change. And really I think what he says, and if you think about what he says, it's about the customer expectations. They're just not going to change. But of course, our enabling technology must evolve and change. We have to get with the program. We have to join the API economy with every other sector. Enormous challenges and rewards. And this is the first of 7 sessions. So the next 6 sessions, we'll continue to explore that. Next session is on strategy on the 14th of October. As I said, we'll have Mark Thompson joining us Let me know if you want to be there. We'll send the invites out shortly, but anyone who's attended this session, we'll certainly make room for you. So we'd love your feedback. This is the first session we've done. We know we can always improve. We want to know what you want to discuss. We want to know what we can do better. So please, we'll send out a form later, but feel free to reach out to either John and I, and with your thoughts, with your comments. And yeah, we look forward to the next session. And with that, John, I'll just open it up for people if they've got any other questions. I think there might be a few that's come through since. We can hang on for a few minutes and answer those, but I'm sure there's people who need to get away.
Yeah, I think we're getting our feedback through the chat box, Fergal.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Positive feedback. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. And yeah, thank you, John. Really appreciate your input. Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Colin, and thank you everybody else for their comments that you've put in as well. And look forward to the 14th.
Bye, everyone.